Obviously, as we sort of get into agenda, we gotta sort of make sure that we're respectful of everybody's time. So thank you guys for joining us this morning. I forget, do I need to formally do anything other than call our meeting to order when it comes to our public meeting and public participation?
We have that process, but with this committee, we haven't really followed the formal approval process, but that's up to you.
Then if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to be less formal and sort of run into, obviously our agenda. But I'd also love to learn a little bit more about, obviously some of them are new members. I don't want to use the word appointed as if it were a sort of a non-voluntary thing, but I know some new members volunteered to be part of this committee. Others sort of thought, that it would be a good place for their time. But I'd sort of like to give everybody a chance to sort of just tell us a little bit about yourself as well, as we sort of talk about the formation of this committee and the goal of this committee and things like that. It's our public outreach committee, and there really was a time where sort of the brand of PlanRVA was not quite as good, in my opinion, as it is right now. And obviously the work of the board members who all get to know each other and spend an awful lot of time around the table together, sort of know inherently sort of who PlanRVA is and sort of what do we do, but there's a lot of other people in the community that don't. So this committee, in its sort of simplest form, was really formed to try to start a variety of different in-reach and outreach type of communications. And I'm very proud to the fact that it's really become sort of a standing meeting, because at least using my job at Timmons Group as an example, it's always important to be talking to people outside the firm and inside the firm and make sure there's alignment on your mission and your values and everything that you sort of stand for. So sort of using that go by, I think it's healthy for PlanRVA as well. Committees are important because a lot of times the work that gets done by the committee is sort of steered and sort of overseen by the members. So I don't want you to feel like by joining this committee, your job is just to sort of row in the direction that we've been rowing in the past. If you have new ideas, or if you have new perspectives, or if you have things that you think we should change, that's the perspective I'm sort of hoping for as well. So as we sort of re-energize this and repopulate it, I'm hoping you guys sort of feel comfortable asking a bunch of questions and expressing opinions, because that's how we're most valuable to staff, in my opinion, is making sure that we listen and give them guidance. But then also, if there's things that we want staff to be directed to do, it's sort of our job to propose it. So if you guys don't mind, Ms. Schneider, can I start with you and just sort of give us a little bit of a few-minute introduction of you, and in addition to your now leadership position in Chesterfield, maybe something else about you personally might be willing to share?
Yeah, so newly elected in November, kind of new to all this, and I just wanted to get involved. I think that this is, in my opinion, I mean, government is, and not so much government, but I mean, any type of engagement with your community is the best way to make things move in the right direction. And so engagement with the community is super important to me, and that's why I wanted to be on this committee, just to find ways of sharing the information that we're working on with PlanRVA and the RRTPO and all the other wonderful things we're trying to do to enhance the region. So that's why I'm here. I'm at home with my dogs. I'm sorry if they bark. I apologize right now. I will try to keep myself muted, but yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Jessica, can I ask you to go next? Do the same? Tell us a little bit, either question, comments, or something about yourself, your day job.
Sure. Yeah. So I am Powhatan County Planning Commissioner for District 3. I was appointed to that. And then I know our planning commissioner that served the past 4 years was automatically put over to the PlanRVA group, but then we did a switch out. So this is my first meeting after taking the place of Mr. Hall. So that's that. So yeah, I'm an architect by degree. I went to college in Savannah, worked at many large firms, small firms throughout the Richmond region. My husband and I currently now own a design build construction company. So we build just custom houses, either specs or contracts for homeowners around Powhatan, Goochland, Amelia area. We also do a little bit with land development, and we have a cattle farm. So I am either on construction sites or with the cows. So sorry I couldn't be there yesterday. We had to haul cattle to Pennsylvania. So today's kind of a catch up in the office day for me. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Frank?
Good morning, Frank Petrosky. I, with the Chesterfield County Planning Commission representing the Midlothian District. I just started my second term. Gloria Fry was the representative last term, so I'm attempting to come close to trying to fill her shoes, which is going to be a challenge, but I'm up to that challenge. I don't know if I'm necessarily a good fit for this committee, but I'm happy to give it a try because I wasn't convinced I was a good fit for the Planning Commission 4 years ago, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm welcoming this opportunity. I want to learn more about the committee. My background, I'm the Director of Strategy and Business Development for a software development company. So technologies, especially emerging technologies, are kind of my thing. So Dave, you mentioned change. I'm more comfortable with change than I am status quo. So I welcome that type of mentality.
Cool. Well, one of the things in the strategic plan, that PlanRVA is one of its pillars is convening different organizations and convening, different people for different purposes. And the design of this boardroom or this community space inside this mixed-use development project was actually something I think shows a demonstration of sort of how PlanRVA wants to sort of live its values, and sort of convene people and sort of teach people and lead people sort of different trends. And I bring that up specifically because the project that Chesterfield EDA is leading, that Timmons Group is part of in Midlothian for the District 60 project. When we brought the planning team on board originally, we sent them to this project. And we sent them to Rockets Landing, and we sent them to other places that were places that people recognized. And we very purposely asked them to come take a look at this space and this place, because that's sort of the same look and feel and brand that we're hoping that our corporate headquarters is in the middle of when that whole, project sort of comes out of the ground. So I thought you might find that interesting, that, they wanted to see, what are you sort of aiming for? And I remember Dr. Casey at a panel discussion we had probably 5 or 6 years ago down at the Times-Dispatch. He always talked about there needs to be a place in Chesterfield that everybody in the region recognizes. Like people recognize Innsbruck, like people recognize Rockets Landing, like I think they're gonna recognize this project, but that's sort of what we're looking to try to do at District 60. So we're sort of living our values and trying to sort of impart a little bit about what I've learned leading this organization and sort of putting it to work back home in Chesterfield. So agenda-wise, again, my job as chair is to try to sort of help staff and Martha use this committee to accomplish what you need our help with. So I'm going to turn the agenda over to you if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I sort of structured the agenda this morning with the idea in mind that we would have many new members of the committee this morning. So it's not really an orientation, but I tried to put together the material in a way that would get you all up to speed about kind of how we think about community engagement. And your intro was great because I think that in some respects, I think the name of the committee is a little bit of a misnomer because we've started, this committee was formed, as Tim said, after the strategic planning process in 2019. And I think we've been on a bit of a journey of discovery about really understanding who it is we need to outreach to. And it has, I think, become clearer and clearer that the first ring of outreach needs to be to our commissioners. So the membership of this committee, the invitation for anybody who's interested in the subject matter, but specifically our citizen appointees and our public or our planning commission appointees, really is to be able to, one, create a venue for you all to connect with your peers across the region, those that serve on planning commissions, to be able to just support that networking that Tim talked about, but also to be able to be a I think, a stronger conduit to us about what you're hearing in your local community, whether that is through the public hearing process and the planning commissions, if it's a citizen member, you know, kind of what is the pulse of the community, the district that you represent, that kind of a thing, if it's that specific. And just being able to kind of have access to you and what you think is important helps us, and it informs our work program, and it informs how we talk about the work that we do at PlanRVA. So I do want to reiterate that we view this committee as a really strong partner with us. It's an advisory committee in its purest of sense. So a lot of the meeting content is discussion based, and it's really about staff, you know, either sharing things that we have been working on and getting feedback on that, or sharing ideas about what we think we'd like to pursue in the future, and getting input on that and how we shape it. And so in the past, this committee has been really formative in helping to establish a dedicated team for public and community outreach. So Holly Gordon's not here today, but she's our community engagement manager, and she works closely with Gilbreth, who is here in the back. And they lead the majority of our externally facing work with our community partners. They help our technical staff team identify the pathways to get out into the community, whether it be through events, tabling, presentations, just being kind of present in the community at different things where you know, we should be able to formally and informally connect. So they really help build that strategy and implement it. Janice leads our board relations side of the operation, and Sid is her support there with managing our digital media. And so we're a small but mighty team of 4 who really work a lot with all of the staff to be able to make sure that the work that we're doing is presented and prepared in a way that's consumable and is accessible, and that, you know, the public are able to input at the appropriate times in the decision-making process. So I thought.
So in the evolution, the strategic plan identified the need to have more engagement. And the committee's support of, and even the financial support of the budget has allowed us to hire people.
That's correct.
That have that professional background. So 5 years ago, we didn't really have any of this in place. And that's sort of a good example of sort of how the structure of the committee, working together with staff and the board, has created now something that, you know, you can join and hopefully strengthen and reshape and sort of advise. But I do think it's important to sort of have the background, because like I said, 5 years ago, we had none of this. Didn't even have an awareness that our RPDC, which was sort of our name back then, needed to be rebranded, and it needed to be repositioned in the marketplace. So the logo's been tweaked, you know, the communications have been tweaked, the agendas have been tweaked. You know, we've got an arsenal of consultants that are on board in addition to our professional staff. We almost sort of needed the consultants as we were ramping up the budget to start hiring professional staff. Now we probably need the consultants much less. But there's been a lot of work for the last 5 years since the strategic plan to establish this committee. So I think it's healthy to have that background, because we want to continue to be a real strong advocate for the need to communicate both internally and externally. And when the board needs some sort of cover to a new initiative or something like that, it's really, if that's sort of this committee's job. So anyway, I think it's healthy to have that background. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll just add, in this fiscal year, some of the deliverables that team, kind of tangible deliverables that team is able to deliver is in August, so it's only, you know, 8 months old. We were able to transition from a quarterly newsletter to monthly, and that's really intended to be that quick read that members of the boards can know what's happening across the 3 organizations that we support, the PlanRVA Commission, of course, and then the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization and the CVTA. We also, in this fiscal year, launched our blog, which is sort of our short form of Tim will remember, we had I think, quite a reputation of producing very long reports that no one wanted to read. And so we have worked really hard over the last 5 years. We still do produce long reports that are substantive and meaty and have a lot of really good information, but we realize that that's not necessarily the medium that a lot of people prefer to consume information. And so we've really worked to be able to diversify the channels that we produce information so that we hopefully can whet someone's appetite with the newsletter or the blog, and then they can dig deeper if they want to find the more technically related information. So we've really been trying to build those layers of communication. So if you see something that's of interest on social media, we try to have, the set of content at different degrees of specificity, I'll say, behind that post on social media, say, or that kind of a thing. So that members of the public or members of the commission or somebody who's interested in their local community and how this work affects their neighborhood can really start to unpack that in a digestible way. So it's an evolution and it's a work in progress, I would say, but we're really trying to make sure that that set of content that we develop through digital and print and other formats are at various levels that are appropriate to the different audiences that we serve. So that's been an effort, I think, that I want to make sure that we commend our staff for being able to accomplish, but also it's been because of the feedback and the input that we've gotten from this committee to be able to start to think about how do we produce this information in ways that's easier to access.
So as a for instance, I mean, I would think if there's, something they're working on, as Martha said, and you get a snippet, and then you can dig deeper, then obviously that's sort of definitely the way that I operate. But then I'd also recognize that if we were communicating with a citizen on a particular issue, because that's sort of part of, you have to communicate in a whole different style. So understanding the difference, so Martha said, who the audience is for different communications, I think that's matured quite a bit as well, making sure we're not sort of trying to have one tool to communicate to thousands if our primary purpose is to communicate just to the members of the planning committee, or to the board, so.
So I wanted to just be able to talk through a couple of things. Here's a set of handouts and I'll pull them up on the, if I can get. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, so I'll pull these things up onto the, I think I'm out of practice, I'm sorry. I just wanted to be able to go over a couple of items, just kind of to be able to give this background and share a little bit about what we've been up to. So this will give you a little bit of a sense, for those of you that are new to the commission, you are not alone. This is I've been with the commission for 8 years, and this is definitely the largest turnover in the composition of the board that I've experienced. And so much of that is exactly what you all named. It's been because of the outcome of the November elections and the trickle down, Jessica, like you mentioned, of the impacts of how people moving from appointed planning commission to elected officials and, kind of those transitions, and then the leadership cycle of participation in planning commission. We've had a lot of senior, very tenured members of the planning commissions around the region retire. And so we've had new people. I think we've had a lot of long-standing appointees from our planning commissions who have retired, and so now we've got an opportunity to meet new people who have served on the planning commission before or are new. It's kind of a mix there. And so one of the things that we've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of months with this committee is how we prepare for that orientation. We knew that it was going to happen, just because we knew how many people were not planning to return to us. And so we've been trying to think about how to structure some of our meeting agendas to not overwhelm folks, because I think most people that are in new positions are pretty overwhelmed with understanding the full scope of all the things that they're responsible for. But we're also trying to make sure that the action items that we have in board meetings and that kind of thing are grounded in context that makes sense. So I just share that with you to give you a sense. We hosted a new member orientation on February 8th in conjunction with our board meeting. That's a new kind of way that we did it this year, just thinking that we would try to ease the burden on folks' calendars and schedules and take the time in an already scheduled time slot on everyone's calendars to be able to do that. We also have been doing one-on-one meetings with folks that either weren't able to participate in that or just wanted to do a little bit more follow-up. And then we've offered similar kind of more in-depth orientation for those members who serve on the Transportation Planning Organization and the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, because that work is a lot more technical, and the degree of, or the amount of decisions that have to be made with background. And then I think one of the other things that Miles Bushing has done in the TPO agenda is really kind of gives like a very high level overview background of each decision item, each action item on the agenda, so that everybody kind of gets grounded and oriented in where we are in the planning process, why are we making this decision, what are the implications of it, you know, how does this fit and work, so that everybody is coming from kind of that shared understanding. So that's a little bit of a structural thing that we've changed with the format of the agendas this year, just really to be able to create hopefully a more an easier transition into this world of the regional planning. The other thing I will share, oops, is our kind of what we've been up to. Tim mentioned that this space has been a really important part of our rebranding and kind of our identity and connection with the community. We moved into the office space here at the Current in Manchester just in December of 2022. So we've celebrated our first anniversary here in the space and are really excited about the opportunity that it's given us to be able to participate more actively as a host in the community for a variety of different organizations. So Lee Medford on our team manages the reservations and the bookings and all of the requests from outside agencies to make sure that we don't double book or over obligate ourselves. But she put together this list for us, and so I just asked her to put together what have we done since January 1 of this year. So you can see we've had 11 hosted events in Q1 from 8 partner organizations. Several of these organizations are regular users of the space. You'll see Sports Backers is named there a couple times, VDOT. We have a couple of organizations like Virginia Community Voice that use this space for their quarterly board meeting and that kind of thing. So they're on the calendar multiple times in a given year. But it's been really great to be able to offer this space to our partners. One is an example for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which Phil supports, but also for the Bike Walk Academy. It's an opportunity to bring stakeholders into the work that we do into the space, which is great because they become then familiar with us just by virtue of being here. So we're really excited about that. At this point in time, we do not charge or assess a fee for partners to use the space. We do go through an administrative review process for any requests for bookings, and we are not advertising the space. So all of the reservations and requests have been kind of by virtue of word of mouth or someone who was here for something and then they asked if they would be allowed to use the space as well. And so this volume, I would say, feels right for us. We're not an event venue and we're not staffed accordingly to do that. So our staff lean in and help to make sure that the room is set up and the AV, things are useful. We know that there's a scarcity of free, accessible, technology-equipped, comfortable, welcoming space in the region. And so we want to offer this as a resource for our partners, but it's not our primary line of business. So we're really, I'll say, kind of careful, to be honest, about how we think about promoting this space as an available resource. So, yeah, Ms. Schneider, you had a question?
More so just a statement. I was just there. I was one of the panel members on Tuesday night, I think, for the Bike Walk Academy, which I think is an awesome opportunity for us to get some exposure and engage people in the processes of getting involved. So I just thought it was an awesome group, and I'm glad that you guys are supporting them there and allowing them to gather. So that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. it's been really exciting to see organizations who have reached out and asked us. I can tell you that this list that you see here is just a sample of who we've hosted over the last year. They would never have asked to use our space in the old office. I mean, I think I can say that pretty emphatically, empirically. We often would have state agencies in particular ask if they could come and take a look at our space to see if it would be suitable, and then they would politely decline after they looked at the space. It just didn't work for the type of atmosphere that you experience on Tuesday night with that kind of an event. So we appreciate that. So again, I wanted to name this because it is, I view, in my view, a big piece, and I think, Ms. Schneider, you kind of named it there. It's a critical part of that community outreach, just being able to have people pass in and come into the space and see it and interact with our staff kind of in that passive way. In and of itself is a great way to promote the organization, and it really helps to be able to solidify those partnerships that we have with these different organizations in the community. So, again, we don't, this isn't like a primary line of business for us. It's not a moneymaker, but we also are careful that it's not a drain on resources, and puts us in a position where it's compromising our core work. So we're really proud of how we've been able to share this space with our partners. Similarly, I wanted to just give you a heads up on some of the more outward research or outward engagement. So if you think about the events where people are asking to come and be with us, experience the space. We're also doing a lot of proactive work to be out in the community and engage. So Gilbreth put together this kind of quick snapshot, and we'll try to put this together in similar format, I think, each time that the committee meets, just to know sort of on a quarterly snapshot what we've been up to. We do, of course, do a lot of content. I would encourage you to follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you are a user of any of those platforms, please do look us up and follow us. We'd love to have you subscribe to our newsletter. I think everybody on our board is an automatic subscriber, so that hits your inbox typically right around the last couple days of the month. And then we do oftentimes feature links to our blog from the newsletter, but we strive to post at least 2 new blog articles each month so that there's fresh content there. And then our website, which is the home of our blog, is also another place to be able to access kind of more formal content. That's where we archive all of our published reports and all of the kind of official happenings of the agency. So that's all the normal course that we're constantly doing, but we also had in the last quarter a couple of special activities related to the submission of the Priority Climate Action Plan. So we did surveying. I know a couple of you helped get the word out on that, so we really appreciated that a lot. We were pushing that out through various different channels, and that was great. We had some focus groups associated with that. We worked to be able to connect with specific community groups, known kind of interested stakeholders in this particular subject matter. And then we did, I believe we utilized some paid advertising with social media as well on that. So we occasionally do some like boosting and that kind of thing to make sure that we can either have targeted geographies or targeted advertisements so that we get better coverage there. We also had some CVTA public comment periods. We manage the public outreach on behalf of CVTA, so Chet Parsons, the executive director of that organization, will put in sort of an order, so to speak, and then our team will work to fulfill that. So that was also happening this quarter. On the hosted event side, we had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a strategy to make the more traditional media aware of any of the events?
Yeah, great question. We do actually do quite a bit. I shouldn't have mentioned that on there. We do quite a bit of news releases associated to core activities. And I'll mention in the context of the transportation forum, great coverage by Virginia Public Media. So VPM, Ian Stewart was there. It was just really awesome coverage. I think he was there the entire time, plus he stayed after to do an interview with each of the panelists and our staff. So that was great. We've been able to cultivate some good relationships with Richmond BizSense and also with our local newspapers. The personnel, as you know, changes a lot in local journalism, and so we've been trying to kind of keep those inroads. And then of course with the RTD and our other more localized papers. So those are, and I should say also radio. We've had a couple of recent opportunities in the last year or so to participate in some interviews on the radio. I can think of 2 or 3 podcast style interviews that we've done, as well as the, like FM bandwidth radio stations around town. So that's been good.
Good.
Yeah. Most of the time that coverage happens when it's a big funding announcement from CVTA. You're able to put like millions and billions in a press release, and that really gets the attention of media. So that's been exciting. But also, like I said, when we have these kind of signature events, the transportation forum this year was very well attended. I think it was our largest attendance that we've ever had in hosting that event. But also, we got some good coverage in some digital media outlets as well. So like more like the news, Dredge newsletter kind of things.
Yep.
So that's been exciting. Our staff also is working to not enhance our presence, but to track it a little bit better. So we're working on a system to be able to do that, but this is just a snapshot of kind of places and spaces, not just that we attended, but where we were kind of an active participant, supporter, recognized member, that kind of a thing. So we were a sponsor of the Partnership for Housing Affordability State of Housing event in January. We tabled at the Environmental Defense Fund's Resilience Reception and the RVA Rapid Transit Adopt a Stop banquet. We had a presence through our state association at the Legislative Day for VACO, VML, and VAPDC. We were a sponsor of Chamber RVA's Regional Action Summit. Presentations were made at the Capital Region Airport Commission and the Richmond Regional Transportation, or Richmond Region Tourism Board meetings, as well as Henrico's Board of Supervisors work session in March. And then we had staff attending and participating in the networking events for the various chamber organizations. We also just joined the Metropolitan Business League and are going to be attending some of those. And then we've also made a commitment to just, in the spirit of, I'll say like kind of walking the talk, we are trying to attend each monthly Manchester Alliance meeting as well, just because we're a tenant, we're a resident here, we want to make sure that we understand what's going on in the community. So we're not often talking about our work there. They would get sick of that if we were, but we're just there as kind of, being in support of the neighborhood. And we rely so heavily on those neighborhood associations and the different kind of business alliances across the region. We thought it would be important for us to make sure that we were participating in the one that serves us, so.
Good.
And then looking a little bit outside of the region, we also do, I'll say like external outreach. This organization, I continue to be just so impressed with our staff. We have team members that are regularly invited to present at state, regional, and national conferences. So this was the snapshot I could think of. I think I missed one because I think Sulabu Ariel was also presenting at an AMPO conference this week, but I didn't confirm that with him. So, but we had our finance director, Dan Van Dornick, was a panelist presenter at the Southeast Regional Directors Institute Financial Management Training in Greenville, South Carolina in February. Katie Moody was a presenter and an award recipient at March's Virginia Emergency Management Association's annual conference this year. And we, as an agency, hosted a group of 5 economic development officials from Louisiana, Arizona, New Mexico, who were visiting Richmond on a site visit to learn more about the economic development field. So we were able to connect them with our partners at Greater Richmond Partnership, Venture Richmond. Bernard Harkless from this site actually came and talked to them about what it looks like from a development perspective to try to pull off a project like this. And they just had a great day in Richmond to be able to connect. And then they did a afternoon tour with Bill Martin from the Valentine. So it was a fun day to have them here. And then we were up in DC. Vice Chair Davis and I were in DC in March also visiting with the staff members of Senators Kane and Warner to advocate for the region, and particularly with what's happening right now with the congressional funding award applications that are open. So And then finally, our staff's been working a lot with the Community Transportation Advisory Committee. That's a subcommittee of the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. So it's a focused, almost sort of a similar kind of organization as this committee, but they're
Okay.
really focused on the work of the transportation planning efforts.
Okay.
And that committee is comprised of citizens and stakeholders who are interested in getting the word out and helping to advise on how we engage the public specific to transportation. And they, in the last couple of months, have updated their public engagement plan. And we're actually, members of that committee actually served as facilitators at the Transportation Forum. So we were really just excited to have that additional level of support and engagement from that committee as well.
Any questions about any of those, that long list of engagement?
I won't talk this long in most of the other
It's all
meetings,
right.
just so you know.
For me, at my firm, I sort of maybe call this task network building. And I try to explain to a lot of our professionals that, if they want to sort of build a practice, I mean, they have to spend an awful lot of time with their staff and their people. They have to spend an awful lot of time with their existing clients, but they also have to spend an awful lot of time sort of building their network. And I sort of joke, I said, the best time to start building your network is 10 years ago. Because if you don't start, you really don't have the network and the resources to accomplish your mission. So where this is important, and I think this committee is important, is, we also have a finance committee, that sort of advises the board, and that's the one who sets the budget and holds us accountable from a financial perspective. And then there's obviously a work plan that is the majority of the staff's work. And so I don't think we have this problem, but if there's ever a financial conversation that says, how come we're not getting these 8 things done? And part of the reason is because we're so busy doing community outreach. It's sort of this committee's job to advocate for outreach. And it takes time, it takes money, it takes hours. There's not an infinite number of hours. So,
Sorry, we have Mr. Bast with us now. I don't think we're able to get him
Okay.
on video, but he is.
all right,
he's
Mr.
our
Bass,
new-
welcome.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. Apologies for my tardiness.
No, cool, thanks for jumping in. So, Ms. Snyder, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of hand in hand with that at the bike walk thing that I was talking. One of the questions someone asked was like, "What's your typical day in the life of a supervisor?" And I just like talking about all of the engagement and how many things I go to. I mean, just looking at that list that you just posted, Martha, I mean, I think I had attended probably 90% of those things. And I just think that it's so important whenever I get an opportunity or an invitation to go to something within the region. I say yes, just because I think it's so important to build those connections and network. And the more people you meet, the more people you know and can connect with other things that we're working on. So super important.
But, and that's the kind of perspective, like you said, there was a time where, our budget was a stressful situation. Well, we're not in that time now. That was one thing that Martha and her team have done a wonderful job of 7-8 years ago. But now that times are good, it's more important now when times are good because people's attention span and how busy people are and all that kind of stuff. If we're gonna do important work and we need people to know about who we are so we can accomplish important work, this committee is more important now than ever before, in my opinion. So I welcome new energy, new ideas, new leadership, and I absolutely commend the staff for everything you guys have been working on. So.
Thank you. Items 6, 7, and 8 on the agenda are kind of a laundry list of things that I think candidly we're looking for some advice, help, input on. I wanted to just kind of tick through these to let you know, item 6, as we look to this last quarter of the fiscal year, this is a kind of a hit list of some of the kind of highlights, I think, when we think about community engagement that we're going to be focused on. So just to give you a little bit of background, and you will see information about this We have historically partnered with the Richmond Flying Squirrels to promote our whole community preparedness efforts. We're going to continue to do that this year. So we've had a great opportunity to get, I think it's like 5, 6 maybe games over the course of the season, home games where we get to table and actually just interact with attendees at the games. We also are able to have 2 of those nights serve as more kind of, they're part of the broader community nights, if you're familiar with the themes that the squirrels do. And so we're able to invite a lot of other partners associated with the Emergency Management Alliance to come in and table with us. And so that's always a really exciting night. They've put together a lot of multimedia events. We've had the ability to kind of be out on the field during the entertainment that happens between innings. And then they do, as you know, as they promote the theme of the night, the partner that is participating in that theme gets the kind of community-wide advertisement that happens. And so we've really enjoyed that. And oftentimes with that sponsorship and partnership, we have the ability to distribute tickets to our family affiliated with PlanRVA. So we'll send out typically about twice in a season an invitation to board members and kind of your colleagues and friends and family to want to come on the PlanRVA night or the emergency preparedness night and kind of, enjoy the game and entertain your folks, but also to be part of the solidarity of why we're there that night. So just wanted to give you a heads up that those invitations will likely be coming. We typically go at the latter part of the season, not so much at the first part. But just know that that'll be coming. And we're also going to be working to do some more targeted outreach with some of the programming with the Emergency Management Alliance. So this quarter, we're trying to set up opportunities to present our disaster recovery workshop content. We partnered with PlanRVA in the fall for one of their chamber mix events out in Powhatan County and had a great attendance out there at the Independence Golf Club to be able to do a disaster recovery workshop with the small businesses that attended. Got great feedback from the chamber. They want us to host again. We've gotten an ask from the Community Foundation if we could modify the content to deliver that training material to the nonprofit sector. And so it's really geared toward particularly small businesses and smaller nonprofits that might not have a lot of capacity to think about what are the types of disasters that your entity is most vulnerable to, and how can you be prepared for continuity of business, continuity of operations, if and when something were to happen. We use real life examples like floods, tornadoes, electrical outages, explosions, things like that we know happen in the region. And so that's informed by our Emergency Management Alliance. And the content was developed through a grant that we received from the Department of Emergency Management. So that's another thing.
Do you include like ransomware and cybersecurity attacks in that, or is it more physical emergency?
The content is driven more toward physical, but they do touch on ransomware and cybersecurity as well. We partnered this past fall with the program delivery from with the chamber with SB Small Business Administration, and they talked a lot about the cyber aspects of risk. But that, as you know better than anybody, is one of those emerging risk factors that we all have to be much more conscious of and probably are not ready for how to mitigate. So I think we're trying to figure out how to more deeply step into that space. It's a good point.
Great point.
The next one's just the long-range transportation plan. Our kickoff of that was with the transportation forums. There's going to be a multiple touch points, and if you did attend the transportation forum 2 Fridays ago, the survey just came out for feedback, so we love that. We've already done sort of an inside debrief about things that we think went well, things that we need to improve upon, but we're interested in that survey response back from participants. And there will be, over the next 18 to 24 months, myriad opportunities for the public to get involved in that process. So we'll be leaning on you all to help us spread the word to make sure that we can get good community participation. This is an example of a time where we often try to get invitations to come to district meetings if there are, at the local level, elected officials or the communities are hosting any kind of citizen awareness meeting, that kind of a thing, we love to be guests with that. We also have found that we're more effective when we can piggyback on things where interested citizens are already gathered, as opposed to asking them to come out another night of their week to be able to come in and meet us. So we really try to figure out where folks that are interested in what's happening in their community might be already somewhat oriented to public engagement and public input opportunities, and how we can leverage that. This is more of alert for C&D, but we're launching a new digital platform this year. The title of the product is called Social Pinpoint, and it's a digital outreach tool that has 40 or so different products in it that will enable kind of ongoing digital interaction with our planning projects. We're really excited about it. We're launching it with the long-range transportation plan, but our intention is to build a practice where we use this as the central hub for digital engagement across all of our planning programs. So kind of more to come on that. I think Heidi and Miles are really excited about what this platform can do, and they'll be able to give you all demos going forward about how we can use it, but it's going to be really exciting. The other thing that's happened over the last month is one of our team members, Rashab, has put together, I'm gonna say this wrong, but we're leveraging artificial intelligence, and he actually has created an analysis tool that will be able to take written public comments, and rather than a person having to sit there and manually read through each comment and sort and categorize and try to kind of make sense of it to provide to the board or for our own planning purposes, the tool will do the first brush of that categorization, be able to glean from the text analysis that he's put in. And of course, it's a learning process. So the more we do it, the better the AI will get. But we'll be able to automate essentially that analysis and categorization of the input. And so Rashab just consulted on the development of the survey for the feedback from the transportation forum, because as you know, data in is only as good as what you asked it to be. And so we're trying to really improve the way that we develop and design our surveys, so that on the back end, we can be as efficient as possible in how we analyze it and make sure that we don't lose any input through that process. And I'm just really excited. I think Janice spent about 10 hours synthesizing the 140 comments that came in for the CVTA earlier in the month. And this could cut that man-hour time down to 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
So it's just really exciting. And then that really creates an opportunity for us to be much more expansive in how we reach out to the public, because we don't have to worry about the volume that could be coming in and do we have the capacity to handle it. So we're really excited about that. And I think that there's going to be more to come on that. But I just wanted to share that with you because it'll be one of those things that we probably seldom talk about, but it's really an exciting way for our organization to lean into these emerging technologies and, make the public input process much, much stronger. So.
Do you know what platform or large language model they're using by chance? I mean, that would be a project perfect for me.
Yeah,
I
was
have,
thinking the same thing.
I have a memo that he wrote to me and I can share it with you. I do not know because most of the substance of the memo that he wrote to me did not make sense, technically did not make sense.
Correct, and that's, I'd
yeah.
love to dive into a project like
Yes,
that.
but that would be, I can connect you guys and share the memo with you that kind of outlines what his process is and the methodology and how it'll learn over time.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We've tested it this will be the second survey, and we've tested it with 2 previous public comments. So for climate pollution reduction and the CVTA public comment, so that it can learn from that. And then that way we've got kind of a jump on future things. So it's just really cool. So that's what's happening kind of through the end of the quarter. I really wanted to be able to have time, and I know we're short on it, so I apologize. Just thinking about next fiscal year. This is the season where we're putting together our budget and our work program. So we do have these upcoming events, just so that you're aware. We've got scenario planning workshop on Monday, April 15th. We're kicking off in partnership with University of Richmond, VCU, Community Foundation, Virginia Public Media, I'm sure I'm missing Chamber RVA, sure I'm missing some other partners there, but our Civic Action Series, the first one will be June 5th, focused on housing. We've been doing this since 2019 or 20, and it's always been virtual. This is the first year that we're gonna go back to in-person and see how those go. This is really intended to be kind of a consolidation of everybody doing their own thing, trying to have conversations in the community about key regional issues. And so we've agreed as a group to come back together and not have everyone competing with each other, but put our resources together and have one series of events. So that's kicking off in June. Our joint annual meeting and PlanRVA Day will be June 13th. You'll hear more about this at the April Commission meeting, but just wanted to be able to share that with you. Currently, we're thinking about 4 modules for the PlanRVA Day. One focused on community engagement, to really be able to talk about and launch, kind of how we're thinking about public engagement and how we can get the community involved in helping us with that work. The second module will be about data and data-informed decision-making. So how does this agency use data? What kind of data do we use? And what does that look like as it feeds into the process? And then we'll have a third module focused on housing, really leveraging the speaker that was at the PHA event in January and bringing in 2 kind of case studies. Our hope is to bring in 2 case studies to talk about how localities have looked at zoning reform in Virginia, because obviously that's really crucial when you think about national models. Some of them are not allowed in Virginia. And so making sure that we can bring some case studies that are realistic. So Charlottesville and Alexandria are the 2 communities that we've identified that we think would be good use cases there. And we'll be working to provide ASCP and some other continuing ed credentials for folks that attend those meetings. So for next fiscal year, one of the things that I'm noodling on as far as a work program priority, we typically have a set of 5 key imperatives for the agency, and then underneath of that, there's our work program that's the detailed set of activities. As far as a key imperative for next year, I've been thinking a lot and talking with Holly about the notion of launching what we're calling a civic engagement innovation lab. That language is intentionally chosen because I think everything with public engagement right now is an experiment. We're trying to test and learn and evaluate and improve. And so Innovation Lab, we hope, kind of connotes that we want to be serious about our public engagement, but also make sure that everybody understands that, this is an evolving process. And so the launch of this new social pinpoint online tool will be an experiment to be able to try what tools are effective and useful in this community, which ones work, which ones don't. And we'll be moving through that process very intentionally to be able to make sure that we hone that over time. We're also in conversations with a couple of stakeholders in the arts and culture community around the region to think about how we can better leverage, as I said before, we're trying to lean into where people already are. And so how can we think about the Perkinson Center in Chesterfield, for example, and the events that they host that might have alignment with topics that we care about? And is there an opportunity to think about programming in a different way so that we can table or we can have survey information and things like that at community-based arts and culture type events, but that would connect with the type of work that we do? So we're having kind of strategic conversations with stakeholders around the region about how we can think about that. We're talking to our public libraries, we're talking to the state library system as well as the local librarians about how we can do that and really leverage those places and spaces that people go so that we can be smart about that. And then finally, that artificial intelligence, that'll just be continuing to be an evolution. So those are 3 sort of priorities that I've identified for this coming year, but was interested in other things that you all thought might fit into that space of trying and seeing what might work.
And so the work program's got a engagement component to it, but it also has the other work program items.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And
So-
so you're.
So public engagement is like,
Your ask of this committee is commenting on sort of what you're thinking about, but then making sure that we're also coming up with other things that community engagement needs to be part of.
yeah. So for us, public engagement is a vertical and a horizontal. So there's this team that thinks about this every day, but they're constantly working with their colleagues in the subject matter expert areas to think about how we can get that content out.
So I just ask each of the members, as you sort of onboarded and sort of started thinking about participating in PlanRVA as, members, if there's anything that sort of comes to mind, either stuff that we have done that you question, or things that we haven't done that you'd be interested in us, trying to lean in on, as Martha said. I guess that's what we need to be thinking about. And maybe as we start then planning the next agenda, would that be sort of a good thing for us to structure
Yes,
the next committee meeting's agenda around, is the work plan for 2025?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my hope was today that, again, I don't normally try to talk this much, but my hope was today that this would be sort of the overview of what we've got going on and what we're thinking about, and then next time would be more of a workshop discussion
Yep.
with committee members on where we need to go.
Yep. So that could be something we could actually sort of send something out in advance to
We
get
could.
people sort of a reminder from this meeting. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to let you know, I'm about to have chaos. There's someone at my door. I'm expecting someone there early, of course. Business or workmen are never early except when you don't want them to be. So
Understood.
I'm gonna go.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So yeah, so just trying to think about, priorities and busy people and all that kind of stuff. I think what we ought to do is we ought to send to the full committee sort of maybe a summary
Okay,
of what we talked about today,
okay,
which was, like you said, almost orientation. And then a summary of sort of what we're hoping to accomplish at the next meeting
sounds great.
to get people sort of thinking about it. And then hopefully then when they get the meeting notice and stuff like that, that's not the first aha that, oh yeah, I gotta think
Sounds
about
great.
that committee meeting. Does that
Okay.
sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
For what it's worth, the three you have here look like a great top three for the next fiscal year, so not knowing much about it, looks like a good start.
Okay. We can do a little bit of I'm thinking, Holly was really great at developing an activity for the CTAC in that same vein.
Yep.
And so I think what we could do is, activity sounds a little bit silly, but it's sort of a facilitated process to be able to go through that. And so we can talk a little bit about what those three things mean, but also then we want to make sure that we're not functioning in a vacuum, so. And I think also, Jessica, I want to make sure that we have a pretty regular discussion about how to make sure that we don't overly focus in one community or one channel or one approach. And so, certainly, I'll just be candid, we don't have staff members who live in Powhatan County, and so we oftentimes rely on the residents' kind of knowledge, and so we have staff members who live in many of the other jurisdictions, but we don't have staff members who live in all 9. And so the voice of the commissioners who come from the communities that we don't have that personal kind of intimate knowledge is really helpful. We work a lot with the staff in Powhatan, but it's just helpful to kind of get a sense of what makes sense for your community, so.
Yeah, so it's heavy burden, Jessica, trying to be the committee member that sort of supports what this committee and the board is doing, but then also making sure that you can back at your constituency back in the county, be able to articulate what PlanRVA is doing for the county, so it's sort of a heavy lift. Sort of reminded where there's, 3 or 4 jurisdictions that have outreach and engagement staff in Chesterfield County, for example. They do this, and so we sort of try to be aligned with them and not conflicting with them. Not every jurisdiction has that staff. So that's what I hopefully you see, not just as a heavy lift, Jessica, but an opportunity for you to use this committee to accomplish things back within the county. That's important. So then we'd have sort of hit our stride if we can do that.
And I can't speak to what the impact of the new social media tone on Chesterfield's platforms is doing to I don't know if you guys follow, but it's hysterical, the social media stuff in Chesterfield. But it should be known that Powhatan had the most social media saturation of any jurisdiction in the region. So Bridget does an awesome job in Powhatan. I think that there was a little bit of competition sparked a couple years ago when that was detected, but I don't know, the new humor-based posting that Chesterfield's got going on might be generating some more followers.
Oh,
It's
cool.
pretty entertaining. I think Taylor Swift even tweeted Chesterfield, and I think Joe told me
Oh, really?
a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Really?
We did steal Jim McConnell from the Chesterfield Observer back when it was still a thing, so I think he's been
Yeah.
very helpful.
It's been really awesome.
Oh, cool.
Good social media game in the region right now. So, anyway, I just
Alright.
wanted to sort of say that we're trying to get that input, so.
Just any questions, final thoughts?
No, I mean, I don't think so at the moment, just getting used to like what everything is and I guess what I signed up for.
Nope,
I'm not quite sure,
understood.
but we do have two board members. I think
Yes.
it's Bill Donati and Steve McClung, so hopefully the three of us can all work together for getting the Powhatan.
Yeah, and Mr. McClung's been on the board for a while, so he's probably, but I'm happy to meet with you. I owe you an email anyway to follow up so we can connect and sort of make sure that you feel good going into the April board meeting.
Yep.
So, and Chris, same with you if you're still here.
Yep, I was just gonna say that sounds. I would love that approach too, Martha. I think that'd be great.
Okay, sounds awesome.
Chris, what do you do for a living?
So I live out in the introduction to everybody again. I live out in Henrico. I had a thing at my daughter's elementary school this morning, so I'm sitting in the elementary school parking lot out here in Short Pump. But I've worked in government and advocacy for a while on climate environmental issues, and I'm currently work as a principal consultant for a climate consulting firm, sort of working nationally. So super into all the CPRG, PCAP, and SCAP stuff, and excited to be part of this group too.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Welcome aboard.
Sure.
All right, I'll ask can we actually do anything with minutes, considering I'm the only person that was at any of those meetings?
People can vote on minutes. I mean, they don't, it's an acceptance into the record, it's not, but we don't have the
We
quorum.
don't have a quorum,
so.
Yeah, we don't
so
have a
we
quorum,
can
yeah.
just put them to the next meeting.
I mean, I think again, what we're trying to do is create the record of the discussions that happen, so.
And the
yeah.
structure is important, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, no, that's why I asked. I didn't mean to intentionally pass
Yeah.
over those, but I thought that was the case. We couldn't do anything formally on them anyway.
I know I'm not qualified to comment on the minutes because I wasn't here for the actual meeting, but January meeting start and end time, I'm hoping is not correct.
Oh, I'll check that.
Yeah, what does it say?
It says it started at 12:34 in the morning.
That's not,
Just for my own sake, I hope that's not
no,
normal.
that's not a sign of anything to come.
Yeah, this is not, we don't have that long of a meeting now.
We'll fix that. Thank you for catching that.
Absolutely.
All right, if anybody has anything else, if not, we'll thank you guys for your time and I'll let you get back to your busy days.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.